You wrote down example number 1?
Mm-hmm.
First thing you have to decide, which of the two numbers is inside the house and which is outside the house. First of all, make the house. I call it the goes into house because you got to figure out who goes into who.
Who's in town?
Who's out? So far, most kids are good with this. Right, 1.1 is outside the house, and that's going to put 9.24 in. What do you remember from 5th grade? What do you need to do with the number that's outside the house before we can even start to do this? Does anybody remember? We cannot leave at 1.1. Ed, what did you remember?
I remember that we have to move the decimal from one place
To the left or the right? Left or right? Everybody remember that we've got to make this a whole number? You can't have a decimal outside the house. You have to make it a whole number. So in this case, we move the rock one place to the right. I call a decimal the rock. Move the rock to the right. If we move the rock to the right one spot outside the house, what do we have to do to the rock inside the house? Jen. You're close. You just explained a common mistake that kids make. Gavin. Not yet. How many places do I have to move the decimal? No.
One.
If you move the decimal once outside the house, you move it only once inside the house. Because the number outside can be a whole number, but the number inside doesn't have to be a whole number. So you got to be conscious of that. If you're moving the decimal only once to make this a whole number outside, then move that rock only once to the right on the inside. Then bring the rock straight up and raise it up in the roof. Make sure it's lined up perfectly. Okay? How you line things up is going to be very, very critical. Okay, now we can go through long division. 11 can't go into 9, but it goes into 92. How many times? Pate.
8.
And what is 11 times 8? Go ahead, Peyton.
18.
Okay, let's do it. Subtract those numbers. Raise your hand and tell me what you get so far as a remainder. Dan.
4.
Mm-hmm. Are we done?
No.
We have to keep going until there's no remainder. Or what we have is a repeating remainder, which is going to be a repeating decimal. We have to go and allow everything to terminate. We say we're going to work to termination or repeating decimal. What do I have to do next? Brand. Bring down the 4 like you remember doing. And then 11 into 44, Nick. And it terminates, because that's going to give us an exact 44 with no remainder. The other thing that I want you to get used to doing, and I know it sounds kind of routine and like, oh, why do we have to do this? But I'm telling you, I always want you to look back and see if your answer makes sense. Because look at this number. If I were to ask you to round 1.1, what would you round it to as a whole number? Jay. And what would you do round 9.24? If you did 9 divided by 1, what would you get? Everybody? Around 9. Is 8.4 around 9? It sure is. Is 84 around 9?
No.
Is 0.84 around 9? That's why I want you to do that check. Okay? Another good way to check is round the numbers down all the time. This is 1 and this is 9. You've already done it. If you do this division, you get 9. If I round this to 8 and I round this to 1, I'm going to get 8. So my number's got to be somewhere between 8 and 9, which 8.4 is. Just kind of do a mental check and make sure that your decimal's in the right spot. Okay? All right, let's try another one. Example 2. All right, here we go. 16.56 divided by 6.9. Who's in, who's out? Well, who's out? All right, by the way, this is called the divisor. And inside the house is the dividend, if that's another way to remember it. 16.56 is then in. What do we have to do first? Karen, how many places in this case? Same thing, only once. How many places do we move the rock inside the house? Is only once. Move the rock right, raise the rock up in the roof. $69 can't go into 1, it can't go into 16, it goes into 165. How many times? Try it off to the side, do what you normally would do, 69 times 1, 69 times 2, until you figure out approximately what our number is there. Payne, how many times?
2.
Happens to go twice. 69 times 2. What'd you get?
138.
Okay. Go through that. What do you got? Jay?
4.
Oh no. 165 minus 165 minus 138.
No, I think it's 4. I got
I heard that.
27.
What'd you get? 27. Done or not?
Are you sure it's not 5?
Done or not?
No.
What do I gotta do?
No.
Say it. Just say it. Just say it. What do I gotta do? 69 to 274.
276. You wrote 4.
Oh, sorry.
6. Billy! I
I still had Jay's answer in my head.
Go.
What do you got?
Oh yeah, it's 76 and it's 4.
Right.
Because I multiply 138 times 2.
And it terminates. Okay, now let's just see if our answer makes sense.
Watch, put the dash.
6.9 is around 7, and this is around 17. Okay, now we know that 17 divided by 7 can't go evenly, but what is 7 times 2? 14. What's 7 times 3? Okay, so is 17 between 14 and 21? Is 2.4 between 3 and 4? I'm sorry, between 2 and 3? Did I lose you?
No.
All right, so our answer does make sense. And again, we're doing that check just to make sure that our decimals are placed correctly. Because 0.24 or 24 would not make sense for a division problem with these numbers. Always look back. All right, good?